Hello everyone out there in IST1 for winter of 2021. Matt Arnold here, talking to you today about the Technology Integration Matrix. I'd like to start today's chat with looking at where I think students are starting at this point. So, according to the matrix, it looks like students have already begun in the entry part because each student has most likely used a Kahoot or created a project on Google Docs or seen a lesson on Google Slides and so on, or maybe even a recording of a lesson like this. Now, adoption, each student usually has a mobile device in their hands, so they've adopted the technology, but I don't think they've gone past the conventional use of technology and really started to look at the adaptation of technology. So I think this is a great starting point, at least for me, usually when I see a grade 9 student or grade 9 to 12 student, because they have adopted the technology, but I think the point in my classes is to get students starting to think about being active consumers of information as opposed to passive users of technology. So what I mean by that is that I feel as a teacher it is my duty to have the students start to think about how and why and when they're using their technology, because I have not seen that taught at homes with parents. So what we do in class then is we start to talk about the purposeful use of technology. So the purposeful use of technology. And some of the ways that I do this in the classroom is we set aside discussion time and at the beginning of the course it doesn't matter what course it is if we are using a tool like a mobile device in a classroom, it's important to talk to the students about where their notifications are and talk to the students about location settings and talk to the students and address privacy concerns and privacy policies of maybe some of the apps that they're using. We take some time to critically analyze the privacy policies of something like Snapchat or TikTok. And that's always really revealing for students. They didn't realize that there is a built-in piece in your device that is a location tracker for your photos. So if you don't go in when you first get your phone from a store and disable that, your phone is constantly tracking. Even if you have all locations turned off for all your other apps, it's already built in that your camera is tracking where your photos are taken. All right, good stuff. Ways that I integrate this in a class and start to get students to actively think about how they're using their device is to set aside 5 minutes of what I call digital device freedom time at the end of a class, right before students head out the door. So what this does from a classroom management standpoint is it gets students questioning what they're doing with their phone. So there's always the option of stay off of your device because it's a choice. So don't let your device tell you when to look at it, and more importantly, don't let any companies or app companies like TikTok or Snapchat tell you when you should be looking at your device. So that's when we talk about notifications and whether you should have or need notifications on. It is in fact their choice that they can check those apps whenever they want to instead of having the notifications tell them to. The 5 minutes at the end of class also encourages students not to take off out the door. So it keeps the students in the class, and usually they won't even hover out at the door because they'll sit down and use their device while they're sitting down. And they haven't done it all class, so of course a lot of them are itching to do this. Many students end up thanking me for revealing to them. It's not really that I revealed anything to them. It's just that they had never heard before that they had a choice to look at it. So many students, once they shut those notifications off, they'll come back to me after the weekend and say, Mr. Arnold, I never turned my notifications back on. And then we discuss how they felt about that and what that little taste of freedom, in fact, gave them. And it gave them time to think about that. So, okay. Next piece. I was thinking about going past infusion and into the transformation piece. So this got me thinking about how I could apply this in my international law CLN4U Canadian and International Law course. So I had been looking at the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum. So the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum, which is an idea between participating countries and the big companies around the world to look at the direct consequences of the COVID-19 crisis and see that as an opportunity for sweeping change. So there are many different sources of law and types of law that we could look at, specifically three: international law, the relationship between countries at the world level, how governments interact with business as well, and partnerships, environmental law, and labor law. So wages and working conditions and that sort of thing at a global level and setting global standards for that. All right, good stuff. So first step under the matrix is to look at the unconventional use of tools. So the wide adaptation of technology, specifically just in the running of a conference like this, and the scope of this, and the technologies that they use to run this conference. So video discussions would be one. Live stream is the app, the technology that they used. They used also some 3D imaging. Which you can access through this page, but we don't get access to that. So this thing here, SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals in a 3D virtual environment. So there's a video about that here that they could use, but students could analyze that and start to think about how they could do that. I had a student last semester create a 3D virtual environment of a law help building. So a building where people could go in and find all the resources they needed for the legal system in one building. Not necessarily a law firm, that was part of it, but one stop. And the reason he got thinking about that and designing that is he had access to a designing program that he used in tech, and like a 3D design program, and thought, okay, how can I make access to law best for all Canadians? And he thought having a building where you can access it all in one space, so he went ahead and designed that using the tech. So how does that work in something like the Great Reset? Well, they have a program called Uplink that you can that got me thinking about some ways that I could do this in the class. So Uplink is a social area where you can collaborate on the world scale with other contributors to change. And those are called action groups, and we'll take a look at those in a second. So on the Great Reset here, if you go down, Uplink right here is a digital platform to crowdsource innovations in an effort to accelerate the delivery of UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it is a social platform specifically dedicated to people all over the world going on and contributing and collaborating on sustainable development goals. So you can create an account, and I thought to possibly not consider every student creating an account within here, because there's a privacy concern, is that we create a class account and students could contribute to that using the class account in different groups. That is, so this is going on to the transformative piece. So you can see here that it starts with, I was on climate adaptation. So built directly within each of these challenges is a unit essential question, which is right here. And then if you go to focus areas, you can start, or we could start as a class to take action. And I could have each group become a group or an action group within one of these focus areas. There are more ideas here that you can comment on from people all over the world. You can see that there are contributions from companies, and then there are the people here that from all over the world that students can connect with. And of course, if I am a member of this group, I can monitor progress, I can monitor language, I can monitor the communications between the different groups in my class and the people all over the world. There are action groups here, and then in the feed, there's a general, you can share updates, you can set polls and take polls, and so on. So that is the transformative piece, and getting back to thinking about the IST standards of students, or standards for students, into the global collaborator part of it. Okay, I know that I've gone on a bit long here. I'm now into 11 minutes, but this is a post I got super excited about. Thanks, folks. Please comment on this. If you watched all the way through, that's amazing. If you did not, then hey, that's okay too. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.